new and returning faces. We're really happy that you guys are coming to listen to our guest speaker for today that we'll get into a little later. I'm real quick, I want to go in through event announcements. So if you guys have not joined some of our meetings in the past few weeks, March 10th, the week 7, we had Brandon Yamada, a past REA president and current analyst at MetLife. He's opened up his LinkedIn and everything to get everyone, just to connect with everyone. So if you're interested, please join our Slack so you can get all that information. Week 8, which was last week, we had a wholesaling and real estate investing talk with Albert Bowie and Matthew Kwan from Avenue One Capital. And this week we had a double event. So this past Tuesday, we had a SMIC collab with Matthew Guerra from Principal Quality Investments. If you guys missed that meeting, it's completely okay. We have meeting notes and also meeting recordings. And he just basically talked about, how did he how was he the founder and how did he build a private equity real estate company, which was super interesting to talk about and something we haven't talked about before. Today, we have Crystal Leyvas from Commonwealth Land Title Insurance that we will introduce after the events, the announcements. She is a guest speaker for this week, and next week is spring break. So I hope everyone has some amazing plans and are excited for a week of relaxation. So I'll pass it on to Heidi, who will talk about social media.
So if you haven't already, you can scan our QR code that will take you to our link tree. And also Martin posted that in the chat, and that way you can get connected on all our social media platforms. We post every week on our Instagram, and please join our Slack because that is our main form of communication and announcements. And yeah, so I'll pass it off to Kyra.
So for our REA merch and membership, it'll be $20 for the semester and $30 for a full year. And you can Venmo to Laya for the payments. And if you have any questions about it, you can message her through Slack. And please mention your name, your email address, and whether or not you're paying for the semester or for a full year. And when you become a new member, you'll also receive a care package as pictured below.
And then one more thing we want to add is that with our new members, we are doing an onboarding system just to make sure you guys are up to date. So when you pay for the membership, be on the lookout for an email that Heidi will send that kind of like just is a Google form to fill out so we get to know you better and, figure out how to send this membership package to you as quick as possible. And Heidi will talk about the ULI opportunity.
Yes, so ULI has a urban plan program for universities. So what this is, it's like a program that will take you through 12 to 15 hour unit challenge for the financial market, social, political, and design issues. And I believe this opportunity is mainly for students who are graduating, but I think they are open to all university students. And if you're interested in this, you should email them at orangecounty@uli.org. And for the subject, just have interest for urban plan. And to inquire about, I think you can also volunteer and be a part of their program. And I think the first step is to first sign up or become a ULI member by registering through their website. And yeah, you could definitely ask them more questions about it because their website is a little bit vague about what the program is about. But I think once you get connected with them, they'll definitely tell you more.
Yeah, and we know that the ULI membership is pretty expensive, especially the student one. So definitely look into volunteering with them because that will still get you in contact with, industry professionals and their curriculum, as well as, just meeting like-minded individuals like you guys, and just, create that knowledge wealth for yourself. So definitely try to become a volunteer for this opportunity. And then we have a partnership posting with Crew Inland Empire, which is their scholarship. So they're awarding 30 female identifying students with $5,000. And, scholarship winners not only get, the funds to to go through with their education in commercial real estate, but this will also help you get in contact with industry professionals. They actually have a program where they get you a mentor, you do a shadowing program, and also get an internship. And honestly, last semester, Caitlin, our past marketing director, and I both got this scholarship, received it. And these people have been nothing but amazing, super kind, and always just trying to help. So I 100% would recommend applying for it. I believe the deadline is April 15th. So you guys have a little less than 15 or a little less than a month. So definitely try to get something in. I think they do want a letter of recommendation. So definitely get on that as soon as possible. And then Heidi will talk about the class.
Yes, so last week was the first week of Professor Wu's economics class lecture that he opened up to REA members. So this week is the last week for the lecture. There was a really great turnout last time. I was really happy to see a lot of REA members coming in and learning more about real estate investments. I just want to remind everyone that this is an actual class. So there are students in here who, are doing homework for the class. They have to take midterms. So, please be respectful to not only the professor, but the students as well. If you know you'll be coming in late, try to sit closer to the door, or if you know you'll be leaving in the middle of the lecture, kind of sit to the side so you don't disturb the rest of the class. But yeah, thanks to everyone who came. I talked to Professor Wu and he was really happy to see the REA members.
And before I pass it on to our guest speaker, we just have a few REA etiquettes, and I know you guys have been hearing me talk about this for a few weeks, and it's just 3 things. We want to respect our guest speaker's time, and we want to make sure you guys get the most out of each of these events. And we really appreciate you guys coming because, like I said, without you guys, there won't be any REA. We won't really have a group to present or bring guest speakers to talk to. And so we really do want to emphasize 3 things. One being that during the meeting, if you guys could just keep your questions to the end, that way, we can hear what our guest speaker has to say. You guys can get the most out of it, and then your questions can be answered towards the end. If you have something that you want to say, please use the chat function so that we can get to you guys towards the end, or that Crystal can call on you guys when she finds a pause and can, introduce that. And then also, when we do have the Q&A section, just make sure to use the raise hand function. That's just going to make it easier on everyone to ensure that, we get through everyone. We want to make sure everyone's heard today and, can answer their questions. And one more thing is Zoom fatigue's real. Sometimes I don't want to have my camera on. I don't want to speak during class. So if that's how you are feeling today, don't feel forced to have your, put up a hand. You can always just use the chat function and someone on the e-board will call on you, or, Krista will read a message and, answer your questions. So now I want to introduce Krista Leyvas. She is the VP of National Accounts from Commonwealth Land Title Insurance. And, from what I've spoken to her a few times, and she is such an amazing, charismatic, amazing speaker person, and we're really excited to introduce her and have her speak with us today. So I will now pass it on to her to take the floor. Oh, Crystal, I think you're muted.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Sanika. I really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you on here today. It's my pleasure to talk to you a little bit about what it is that I do, what title insurance is, and to do a little bit of a deeper dive beyond just the surface of what this type of occupation does for the commercial real estate class. So I think I mentioned this a little bit early on. My name is Crystal Leyvas. I've been working in title insurance for about commercial real estate insurance for about 16 years now. So it is my specialty. And while the title of our company, Commonwealth Land Title, may make you think that we specifically only work on land, that is not true. We work on all asset types, and not just in California, but across the nation. We are the largest title insurer in the country. We don't sit second seat to anybody. We have 250 offices across the United States. Of those 250, 12 of those are very specialized to commercial service commercial services tools that cater only to the commercial world. So there is a big difference between commercial real estate and residential. So I think most of you are in school for either finance or real estate law or something a little bit more specific to commercial real estate. But I think where our industry was amiss is because commercial real estate has so many different tentacles that reach into a project, whether it's the finance component, whether it's, you know, a development, whether it's architectural. So you never really hear about title insurance, right? So let me tell you how I started, completely by accident. I was working in the sales arena for a staffing company, a very large national staffing company, and the sales manager for one of the big two title insurer approached me about an opportunity in the Inland Empire. And I said, well, I don't know anything about commercial real estate, and I certainly don't know anything about title, so I think you have the wrong person. And they basically told me, well, you know what, you have the sales acumen, we'll teach you the rest. And so that's how my career started about 16 years ago. Title insurance is much, the best way I can describe it, it's much like car insurance. When you go purchase a car at a dealership, they require you to have insurance before you leave the lot, correct? Well, title insurance isn't necessarily required by a buyer. However, if you're going to sell the property, or if you're going to refinance it, or if you're going to develop the property, you must have a title policy. A title policy is a document that produces a grant deed that says you own that property and that you are the operator, that you can dispose of it, you can develop it, you can refinance it, but that legally that piece of property actually belongs to you. And title insurance is insuring you against everything that is on the property from present day backwards, not present day forward, but backwards. So that includes any liens, judgments, anything that encumbers the property. It's a record, and that's what we're producing to you, so you know exactly what you're buying when you buy it, or when you refinance it, or when you go to develop it. So that's what a snapshot of title insurance is. Commonwealth is a division of, as I mentioned earlier, Fidelity National Title Groups. So Fidelity is our parent company, and we have sister brands, Chicago, Fidelity, Commonwealth, that do the commercial services that only cater to commercial users. And then we have Ticor and lawyers that only cater to residential folks. And that just simply means that we don't work on anything other than actual commercial real estate. What constitutes commercial real estate is really anything you can't live in. So it would be a retail center, it could be hospitality, a hotel, it could be an institution, a school, it could be multifamily, it could be a sporting arena. We did SoFi, we did Allegiant in Las Vegas. So that's just to name a few. What constitutes commercial is any structure that's 4 units or less is considered commercial real estate. As a national accounts manager, it's my job. This is what I do on a day-to-day basis. I go and I visit brokers, I visit investors, I visit developers, I visit real estate attorneys. I visit many people who actually touch a deal, whether it's on the onset or on the back end. And they're either negotiating contracts, they're looking at the actual physical elements of the actual property. And my job is to lure them in, to convince them to use my company for insurance, because they have to have an insurance policy. And so my job consists of cold calling, telemarketing, doing market pitches. And I do that not just here in California, but across the nation. So that's a little bit of my day-to-day. It was a little bit more challenging during COVID, because as you can imagine, being in sales, you have to do cold calling, you have to knock on doors, you have to call people. And a lot of our work is actually in person. Well, when COVID happened, we had to quickly pivot and understand how we're going to sell to the market, but behind a camera like we're doing now or via telephone. But believe it or not, it wasn't an issue. Most people understood the climate that we were in, and we adapted quickly. We did everything electronically, and 90% of our work is what we do electronically anyway. So it wasn't too taxing on us to have to do that. The only thing that was challenging is when we're executing documents for a purchaser or a borrower that needs to sign a grant deed. That became an issue because that has to be done in front of an actual person, a notary. So we had to find some workarounds for that. But across the country, from California all the way to New York, we got legislation passed quickly, emergency legislation that passed quickly that will allow us to do all recordings electronically by way of the title company. As long as it was submitted by a title company, we could record documents. So real estate did exchange hands. It was a practice that was adopted quickly, and we were able to do business as usual just by having a computer in front of us. So while it did change things, a lot of people decided that they were going to continue to work remote beyond COVID. Same practices are in place. There are some places that have removed that rule where you do still have to go in person, but for the most part, almost every jurisdiction in the United States, we are able to operate electronically. Wow, that was a lot. Some advice for commercial real estate students who are either dipping into the finance world, or they're doing brokerage, or they're doing real estate law. It is a hefty climb because there's so many different moving parts when it relates to doing an actual project. And in doing so, I would just say be patient with the process. Understand that there's a technical part to it, there's a finance part to it, and it takes a lot of time to learn every aspect of the job. It doesn't matter at what capacity you're working, whether it's the law, whether it's the finance, whether it's being a broker, whether it's the insurance part, whether it's the underwriting. There are so many moving parts to a transaction, and most transactions are never the same. They all have different nuances. Some are very granular, some are not. So I would say that when you're entering into this career, be patient. The climb is deep. It's about a 3 to 5 year success rate for somebody in my capacity. And what I mean by that is you're going to be doing my job to learn it at least for the first year and a half. The second year is where you're actually out building your pipeline, getting your clientele. And then the third is where you're kind of just start feeling comfortable about what you're doing, the tools that you're selling, and being able to pitch that to a potential developer, institution, whomever your audience is. And I don't think that people coming into the real estate world are told that on the front end, that, you know, the barrier of entrance is a little bit difficult and it takes time because it's like a fire hose of information coming at you, and you're learning all kinds of different techniques, and you're learning all types of different languages from the broker, from the attorney, from the developer, from the institution. And often they don't communicate that to somebody who's new into the industry. So I would say that is the best piece of advice I could give to students coming into this world, because again, it takes a lot to learn all that, but be patient. It will come. The lights will come on, and before you know it, you're operating at full capacity. You feel proficient in the information that you're giving and the stuff that you're working on. So I would say stay with it and learn as much as you can about whatever you can when it comes to working on the technicalities of any transaction. The question was posed to me, what do I like most about my work and what do I like least about my work? The thing that I like most about my work is that it's allowed me to see the economy actually move by way of a front row seat. And what I mean by that is that you're working with individuals and you're working with institutions where the smallest deal could be anywhere from $537,000 all the way to $3.2 billion. You could be working on a high rise in New York. You could be working on One Wilshire downtown, or you could be working on SoFi. And normally, you know, everyday working folks that are just going to work doing their job, they don't see any of the background noise that it takes to do a project like that. But when you're sitting in somebody like myself shoes, or your shoes, when you actually start working in the field, you start to see all those moving parts. And like I said, you don't realize what it takes to build a structure, whether it's a preschool, whether it's a stadium, whether it's a hospital, or whether it's a school that's just doing a new student center. And you take for granted that before you know it, it was an old building that was run down, and now it looks like a state-of-the-art 21st century, you know, thing of art. So I like that element. I like the fact that I'm always learning something new in real estate, because as I said, there's most deals, there's always some different nuance that I'm learning that I didn't know before. So the background of that is, if you like being a student and you like learning all the time and you like change, this is definitely the occupation for you. The least favorite thing about my job that I didn't always like was cold calling. When I first started, I had to go hit the pavement, and I was walking literally into offices of people that I didn't know, and I'd had to go in there and I had to introduce myself, and I had to make them want to see me for a follow-up meeting, or convince them that I was competent enough and I had the skill set to do my job. That was really difficult for me, only because I really felt fish out of water, and it wasn't something that came natural to me. Some people it does, it didn't for me, but I did over time get over that hurdle. But it was a challenge for me at the beginning. But in real estate, almost every capacity, especially if you're an agent or a broker or a salesperson, you're getting your salesperson's license, that is a requirement. You will be required to talk to complete strangers that you don't know. You're going to have an elevator pitch. You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone and really, really hone in on that skill. So that was the one thing that I didn't particularly love about my job when I first started. So that's just a snapshot of a little bit of what a title representative does for any of the big two insurers. We work with the surveyor, the appraiser, the lender, the borrower, the buyer, the seller. So it's an exciting job. I hope that some of you will investigate it. I hope that some of you will explore some of the opportunities this type of occupation affords you. And, you know, like I said, Commonwealth is one division of Fidelity National Title Group. But if you explore it, I would encourage everybody to get on fntg.com. We have a national surveying partner that works with us on all projects across the United States. That's a surveyor, that's zoning. So that's a different type of job within commercial real estate. We have 1031 exchange, which is an accommodator that what happens there is when you sell a piece of property, you're moving that money and you're going to put it on a different asset, and you kick your tax penalty down the road. And that's just a short, simple way of me putting it. I'm simplifying it. There's more to it than that, but we do own our own accommodator. And then of course, fund control, where you're doing a construction loan and the bank requires you to monitor the funds being dispersed to the contractors. We own our own fund control company. That's another element of commercial real estate that people don't talk about. And then of course, just escrow officers, title officers, and underwriters who underwrite and work on the actual transaction themselves and are doing the more technical aspect behind the scenes of an actual deal. So with that said, I would love to take some questions. The first one is from Andrew. Can you drop the links in the chat, please? Yes, I will absolutely do that. Anybody else?
See that
Hi,
Cam
Crystal.
raised his hand? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that, Sonica. Yeah, I have a quick one. Thank you for coming and speaking to REA today. I'm kind of wondering, I don't know if you've worked at any other of the larger firms, but what is it that differentiates Fidelity from its competitors if we were looking for, a job within this industry?
Oh, that's a great question. Great question. The first thing that I would say is our platform. So a lot of people say, oh, you know what? I can work in the national commercial services space, but it's a different thing to be able to actually do it. So I would say the differentiator between us and everybody else is that because that is our specialty, we excel in doing portfolio projects. If you came to me tomorrow and said, Crystal, we're selling 32 public storage sites, 11 in California, 7 in Florida, 2 in North Dakota, 1 in New Mexico, I'm going to be able to handle that transaction from start to finish, and you're only going to deal with me. And that's it. That's what I would say is our number one advantage over our competition.
Wow, really cool. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
I had a question. My name's Andrew. I'm a third year FRL student. I really like your presentation, like that you didn't give us like slides to look at, because like I feel like that's more distracting, and like just a conversation, way better.
Thank you.
My question is, which skill do you feel has helped you succeed the most in your role? Like I know you mentioned patience, but what about like your sales acumen, like your communication skills? Yeah.
That's another good question. Thank you for asking that. So my background when I started, I started about 2007, 2008, and I recognize that most of you are a lot younger. I'm a lot older than everybody on this call. But in that market, there was a decline. We had a little bit of an issue. We had the market collapsed in real estate. So I had to reinvent myself, and I had to go internal. And so rather than leaving the industry as a whole, I went in and I learned operations. So I did a little bit of underwriting, I did a little bit of title, and I did a little bit of escrow. And all of that helped me hone in on my craft. So it allowed me to go out into the field and speak a lot more in depth about title insurance, underwriting. So the more knowledge is power when it comes to doing my job. So I definitely got a lot more comfortable talking to attorneys, investors, and developers, because I could speak their language, because I understood exactly what it was that they were looking for from a provider like myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have a question in the chat from Marina. Can you give advice on perfecting an elevator pitch?
Ooh, good question, Marina. I would say practice. What I did was I went on YouTube, I looked at an array of different elevator pitches, and I kind of practiced and kind of really tailored it to what it is that I do and what an elevator pitch would be for me. Do all of you guys know what an elevator pitch is? I feel like some of you might, some of you don't.
I think we could go over it just in case some don't know what it is.
So an elevator pitch is, let's say I'm at a conference or I'm at a hotel and we're at, somebody's doing a presentation, a panel, and there's a prospect that I really want to meet, but haven't had the opportunity to. And the next thing I know, they're getting in the elevator with me, and I have only a minute to 2 minutes to pitch myself and make an introduction before he or she gets off the elevator. So I quickly introduce myself. I tell them how I know about them, and I have to remember to make the ask. Can I get your business card? Can I follow up? Can I get a meeting? So that's what an elevator pitch is. So you got 2 minutes to make an intro to this person that you really, really want to get in front of. That's an elevator pitch. But I would ask you guys to look on YouTube, as I said, to look at some samples of what an elevator pitch looks and sounds like.
Next, we have Martin, who raised his hand.
Go for it, Martin.
Oh, Martin, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Hi, Crystal.
Hi.
I have a quick question about like title insurance in general. You mentioned that title insurance ensures that the property is free of encumbrances. What generally happens if there is an issue after the transaction closes?
And there's an encumbrance or like a
Yes, like
fraudulent. Go ahead.
yeah, like there's an encumbrance.
Usually what happens is, especially in commercial real estate, and definitely depending upon what the sales price is or the loan amount is, there are real estate attorneys that are looking at the imperfections of the Schedule B of the report that we give them, which is what they're supposed to do. And we identify issues that would come up for a future development or something that would permit them from getting a loan, like a judgment or a lien or a mechanic's lien that would prevent somebody from being able to do anything with the property until those judgments, liens are satisfied. So we typically identify those things before we even get down the road. However, there are issues that come up. I'm sure you guys have heard fraudulent deeds is a big one, where somebody said they own the property, they really didn't, and signed a deed and recorded it. And then their true owner comes forth and says, I didn't sell my property. I didn't sign a deed. What are you talking about? That's an issue where that's a claim. And that's why you buy title insurance, is that owner will then come to the title insurance company and file a claim. And we've got to fight that in court based on whatever jurisdiction and proof that we have and why we insured the property to begin with and how we came about the fraudulent deed. So that's just a sample. So
Got it. So the title company, I'm sorry.
So typically a claim, that's why you're getting insurance, is because you're getting protection over that.
Got it. So the title insurance would take care of that whole process, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all situational. I had a situation in Colorado where a buyer and seller agreed on the buyer paying the next year's taxes. And the seller, of course, agreed to that as well. And we closed. And then the buyer realized, wait a minute, why am I paying for taxes on a property that I didn't even occupy yet? Why would I do that? Well, you agreed to that in the PSA. So they fought about it because they wanted the title company to pay the taxes. We don't pay property tax for anybody. That's the responsibility of the owner. But it was a discrepancy between the buyer and seller. That too was a claim. So anytime there's a discrepancy that wasn't clear to the buyer and seller, or they feel like they bought a piece of property that the facts to them didn't present themselves based on the information we gave them, that could be a claim.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Now Mark has his hand raised.
Yes, hello. Thank you. I just wanted to ask, since you guys said knowledge is power, and I wanted to see, because we're still in classes and still trying to learn, but it's different from learning from from behind a textbook to actually speaking to real professionals in the industry, and you understand learning the different lingo and everything as well. And so I just want to see, is there any podcast or do you see YouTube videos or potentially any books that you recommend that we could start reading on the side so we could start building our knowledge and just kind of have a better understanding as well?
For commercial title insurance or just in general?
I think potentially just in general, just see, because I think right now, it's gonna be hard to just kind of narrow it. I think it's what I've been doing is I've been networking with a lot of other individuals in different industries. So I've been talking to escrow agents, real estate agents, lenders, and I've just been kind of picking pieces and kind of really seeing where I want to focus in.
You know what? Unfortunately for our jobs, there is no class or curriculum that's offered through any school to teach you what we do. It's really, truly, you sink or swim when you first start. But I would say, we offer, the title company, we offer internships to come in during the summer, and they're paid internships. And most big title companies offer that. But I would say reach out to a title company of your liking or who's in your area and let them know that you want to do an internship. And you can come in and you can see all the back office business applications that we have to go through, that we apply on the day-to-day. And that is truly the best exposure to learn more about the back end of what insurance does for a commercial real estate transaction, because there is no better teacher than the folks that are actually doing the deals.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you so much.
We have one. We have an internship with our company, and it's through all of our brands, and we're all through Los Angeles and Orange County and Inland Empire. So if you're interested in doing an internship, take my email, follow with me after the call, and we can talk a little bit more about that. And that's for anybody who's on the call. If you're interested in doing that, let me know.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Sure. I see I have a question from Marina. What has been the most rewarding component of my job? Well, I can honestly say that I love what I do. So that's been rewarding, because if you don't love what you're doing, don't do it. Trust me, it's a pain to get up every day when you don't like what you're doing. I love what I'm doing. But aside from that, we all have to go to work, right? We all have to have a job because we want a certain quality of life, or we have goals that we want to accomplish. And a lot of those goals mean that you want to buy a house, or you want to buy a certain car, or you want a vacation, or whatever it is that your aspirations are. This type of job will allow you the monetary reward to accomplish those goals. So, example, a salesperson in my capacity that's doing what they're supposed to do 8 hours a day can make anywhere from $100,000 a year all the way up to $3 million a year, just in doing the title insurance sales for commercial real estate. I can't speak to doing residential because I don't know what those salaries look like, but in my occupation, I know that these salaries have that range. So if you're somebody who's tenacious, who likes to talk to people, who has, that grind, that wants to get out there and hustle, this is definitely the job. Yes, it's a lot of work, but the rewards are also great. So I would say, I like what I do, but the monetary compensation is always good too. Cameron, this is from Cameron Massey. With tailwinds from Omicron cases easing and potential headwinds from rising rates, what's your take on the economic landscape for commercial purchase market this year? Great question. When COVID first started, everybody was worried. We had economists come out and say, oh my gosh, the market's gonna fall apart. Investors are going to hit the sidelines. We don't know what's going to happen with the interest rates. The feds are saying they're going to hike it. We didn't know how COVID was going to affect even Wall Street. And so in real estate, obviously, those are markers that we track heavily from across the nation. And so me personally, and what I'm hearing from my folks is that the spigot has not turned off. We are busier now than we've ever been before. However, I do recognize that the feds have said that they're going to increase the interest rate a couple more times before the end of the year. That will have an effect on investors and people who are purchasing assets, not just here in California, but across the nation. And I think that most of the heavy hitters that are in this arena today have weathered this storm before. So they know what to expect, and they have the wherewithal to stay in the market at whatever capacity they're operating. It's the folks that are a little bit newer, that don't have the experience of how to navigate through this, that might be problematic as the year winds down. But for right now, we're seeing a record number of transactions happen. So we're going to ride the wave and we'll see what happens. The war has a lot to do with what's going on right now too. So we're keeping a close pulse on that. But I would say that if you're looking at markers like the residential real estate markers, there's no end in sight, particularly in certain geographies like Arizona. So any market that has a booming residential market right now, commercial will continue to stay strong in those markets, because where there's a need, there's demand, and they will go there. So for now, I would say it's going to be a strong year. It's anybody's guess how fourth quarter is going to go. So I know that might not be the answer you're looking for, but that's my forecast.
No, I really appreciated the color there. Thank you.
Going once, going twice. Anybody?
So I had a quick question. I know that you mentioned, there's a huge, when you first started, there's a huge span of what you need to learn. So then how did you get through that? And how did you it can be very overwhelming when you start a job and you're like, okay, there's so many things to learn, so many things to do. So I guess one thing that you could talk about, or if you could, is how did you get over that? And what did you tell yourself to, get through those situations and just like learn everything that you can and get to where you are?
I think like most people, when you start a new job or you're starting anything new, you want to be really proficient at it and you want to be really good, at what you do, because you want to level up, right? You're just trying to excel at anything that you're doing. And so in order to do that, you got to understand the tools in your toolbox, and you have to understand the mechanics that go along with everything, whether it's, underwriting a loan, whether it's reading a purchase and sale agreement, at whatever capacity you're working on a transaction, you want to know all of the details as much as you can, because, knowledge is power. And anytime that you're sitting in front of somebody, you want to have them walk away with full confidence that you're able to do what they're asking you to do. And so for me, I didn't realize when I started that it was going to take me as long as it did to learn everything. And I didn't realize that there were certain parts of the job that I would have to look to so many other people to teach me. And so I would say that don't be intimidated by, this is, I'm sure you guys have heard this many times through, even in, grade school. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. No question is a dumb question. That is not any more true than in our industry. A lot of questions. There are days where I call my officers today and say, okay, you know what, guys, I need you to dumb this down for me. Translate this into language that I understand. What does this mean when you tell me we can't X, Y, Z? And so every time that I do that, I'm teaching myself something. So this job and any other job will truly come over time and experience and asking a lot of questions. And so once you realize that, and you know that you're not the smartest person in the room and you have to rely on others to help you along the way, things get a lot easier.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions? There's something in the chat.
This is from Jesse Lafarga. Has it been a challenge to navigate in the male-dominated field because you're a Latina? When I first entered real estate probably 16 years ago, it is a male-dominated field. And most of the brokers in the Orange County area and the Los Angeles area, there wasn't a lot of people who looked like me. And so I never let that be an obstacle for me, truly and honestly. I never felt like I didn't have a right to have a seat at the table. I never felt that way. And I didn't allow anybody else to make me feel that way either. So I would say, was it a challenge? Yes, because I had to work a little bit harder and I had to prove that I should be here. But I think once I established myself and once they knew, whoever I was working with, that I was more of an asset to them than a liability, it was no longer any hurdle for me. So I think for me, I just didn't allow anything to be a barrier for me. I just decided, I'm going to do this and there isn't really anybody who's going to stop me. So let me through, else I'm going to run you over. So that was kind of my attitude. So I didn't let things be a challenge for me. I hope that answered your question.
More questions? But I just want to say, I love what you said about, let me through, I'll run you over. I feel like that's something that a lot of us need to start thinking like, in terms of, trying to get our foot in the door and just having our position in such male-dominated careers.
Your tenacity across the field, whatever entry point you guys decide to get into commercial real estate, tenacity is your best friend. Even if you're uncomfortable and it's not something you like doing, push yourself to be uncomfortable all the time, because in that when you're going through that transition, that's really where you learn the most, not just about yourself, but about what you're doing. Is this what I want to do? Is this the kind of job that I can live with for the rest of my life? Is this the career that I want to do? And during that process, during that whole journey, you start to discover more about not just, you know, the job, but what direction you want it to go in. And oftentimes, you know, where you start isn't where you necessarily end. And so, and you never thought in a million years, or at least I didn't, that I would be working in the capacity that I am today. So I would say, be tenacious, go after it. Don't let anything or anyone be your hurdle, especially a negative mind. Don't waste your time on it with a negative mind. Always try and be around people who are positive, who are keeping you motivated, and who will be willing to be your teacher all the time. Because I have found that many people throughout my career, the teachers that have helped me get to where I am today, you know, I would be nowhere without them. I'm truly thankful and indebted to them. And I still talk to most of them today. And, you know, priceless relationships that I've gained throughout the entire time of me doing what I'm doing. So I hope that is helpful to you, not just with, you know, finding your path, but certainly how you look around and see what you're going to explore next.
Thank you so much, Crystal. I guess to wrap up the Q&As, are there any, is it okay if we send out your email and your information to our members so that they could reach out to you? And what's the best way to reach out to you?
Best way to reach out to me is via email, and you're more than welcome to send my contact information to anybody on the call. I'm always available. I'd love to help if I can help you in any way, get you more excited about working in commercial real estate. Certainly that's something that I'm not just myself, but my company welcomes. So please don't be shy.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Crystal. We really appreciate you coming, and, you know, really appreciate you reaching out to CBP for job opportunities. We love that. So hopefully more people would reach out to you in the next few weeks or so.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Thank you so much again.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.